Hello, Professor Myers. Hoping you're doing very well. Um, I'm doing pretty well. I've been, it's a hard time for everyone. But yeah, so this is my Share the Wealth presentation. Obviously, I wasn't able to do this in class because of my illness, but I hope you find this interesting. So this presentation is about early electronic music and synthesizers. I want to start with an anecdote. One of the very interesting things that happened in a high school math class, in my high school calculus class, was I was walking into class before class started. And my teacher was a musician and a mathematician. He was very interested in music, and outside of class, we often talked about the mathematics of music, which is quite interesting aside. When I got into class on that day, he was listening to very distorted, weird sounds that did not sound really anything like something you would find in nature. And this was quite interesting to me. Um, so I asked him what it was, and it turns out it was electronic music recorded in the Soviet Union in the 1930s. Which I found quite interesting, and that piqued my curiosity in electronic music, and I started to pursue it more. So my research was very interesting. So the earliest electronic music actually was not intended to really be music at all. It came about during demonstrations of devices to the public, like in this image here. It's of a videophone, which was an early device used for recording sound, for sound pictures. And when large audiences of the public were to be shown these, they often, as a gimmick, used their electronical systems to produce music, electric systems to produce music. The popularity of this was very low because it was not accessible to the mainstream public. However, with the introduction of vacuum tubes and the miniaturization of electric components, this became a lot more common. So we started seeing it kind of increase in popularity in the late 1940s and 1950s. One thing that a lot of people found quite fun was using magnetic tape recorders. And you know how you rewind the magnetic tape recorder and it does that kind of weird, sound? People found that manipulating magnetic tape, they could create artificial sounds. And these started to become popular, and people actually started to play these for audiences, specifically in the US, Japan, and West Germany, among other nations. Those are the largest. It started to increase in popularity, and in 1958, Columbia Princeton Music Center, with funds from the Rockefeller Foundation, produced the RCA Mark II. This was a very large synthesizer and the first purpose-built synthesizer ever made. It was a room-sized computer, and it was used to produce electronic music. Electronic music, you started to see prominent use in the 1960s with electronic guitars, but it really kind of reached its peak in the 1970s and 80s when we saw the introduction of a lot more purpose-built instruments like keyboards that were far smaller than previous instruments. And this allowed a lot of people to play it. You probably know in the 1980s became a trend of using synthesizers and keyboards to produce artificial sounds, and this is really popular, in a lot of dance music. Also, it was used in disco music in the 1970s, so this really does have a long, rich history. It really kind of defined the sound of a lot of the 1980s. In hip-hop, it was also quite commonly used in the form of DJing. People found that using records and using record players, which you could control the pitch and amplitude of the sound, they found that they could create completely new sounds just by manipulating the old music. So that was quite innovative, you know, and they, you know, using the record players could make completely new sounds, and you hear this a lot in early hip hop, with that DJing sound of the records scratching. Also, the use of synthesizers really kind of kicked off in a lot of other areas. It became a pretty prominent sound in the 1990s in hip hop and a number of dance music. It's quite interesting. Nowadays, electronic music is used absolutely all the time. It's extremely common because electronic devices are extremely common. Computers make processing music extremely easy in the comfort of one's own home. So overall, it's seen a really large, you know, proliferation, and overall, it's a very interesting topic. How a very new form of music expanded so quickly and became such a part of the mainstream music scene. So that's my presentation. It was based off of an ungraded essay, and I hope you found it as interesting as I found it.